I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Kamen Riders. We're here to talk about Kamen Rider Geats episode 23. I'm your host. My name is Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Joining me, as always, to talk about Kamen Rider is my good friend, Toby Tobes. What's up, Toby?
Hello, Joshua. How are you?
Oh, I am quite splendid. Thank you for inquiring about my particular mood. I have been having a quite splendiferous day.
That's fantastic. Josh, as of this recording, live right now, we are on the eve of the greatest holiday of every year.
Is it right before what is it? It's March Madness that you watch, right? Like that's the big thing.
I'm glad that you've known me long enough that you just know. Yes, it is.
Yeah. No, I knew what was coming, but then I had a moment of panic that it wasn't actually called that. It's kind of, like around the Super Bowl where it's like it's the Super Bowl, but then everyone calls it like the big game and like they have other words for it.
They trick you.
Because they can't say Super Bowl. I was thinking like, wait, is March Madness one of those too?
So basically, as of tomorrow at 4 p.m., I will no longer be working until next Monday because for all of March Madness, which is the college basketball tournament here in the United States, depending on where you're listening from and what information you know about it, me and my friends basically just live at the bar for the next 3 days. So hopefully I'll be back to record more episodes, but you never know.
There's always a chance that you die from just alcohol poisoning. I feel like by the end of the March Madness games and stuff.
But so I wanted to wrap this into a more important discussion question, Josh.
Okay.
So I want a real answer out of you, but don't do it.
How would you think I don't give real answers?
I'm preambling because so the question is there anything that you've ever done for an extended period of time that the entire time you know that you're horrible at and you should have never bothered in the first place? And the reason I ask, and you can think about your answer first, and why I don't want an answer like, oh, podcasting, oh, watching Kamen Rider.
I mean, my answer was going to be like literally everything I've ever
See,
done.
exactly.
Like,
that's why I was doing the classic Toby amble where I have to warm up the crowd. But so the first year I took off for March Madness was like 10 or 11 years ago at this point.
Uh-huh.
And the only reason I went with my friends was because they were like, hey, you should take off with us. And I was like, fine, I'll skip work, no big deal. And they said, but just so you know, we're going to golf in the morning first. So you should probably just come with us golfing. And, then afterwards, let's go to the bar and do whatever. So I was like, fine, this sounds like a thing. But Josh, I had never golfed before that point. The way that it worked was I was given a bag of old clubs when I got there. And they were like, yeah, just swing them. I don't know. Good luck. Have fun with us. And from that point forward, so I would say I played golf for 3 years, at least once a week, if not twice, with my friends. I was never once taught how to play golf.
Perfect.
I was never once taught how to swing a golf club. So for 3 years, once a week, I would pay like $30 to go out, hack at the ball, not really hit the ball the way you were supposed to, get laughed at by everybody. And then at some days just have a horrible day because I was like, why the fuck am I doing this with myself?
Yeah. So weirdly, my answer is also golf. And I haven't golfed as much as you. Like I was never like a weekly golf person. But I definitely, so in high school, my like best friend in high school was very good at golf. He was on the golf team in high school. Like kind of to the point where like I think if he like really wanted to, he probably could have golfed professionally or like semi-professionally, like gone to tournaments, like potentially worked hard and got to the PGA, whatever it is. Is that the golf organization? The PGA?
That is the golf. That is the golf organization.
Thank you. He was very good, like super, super good. So he and I oftentimes like the thing that we would do to hang out would be like go to the golf course, and like it was definitely in the same scenario as you, where like he would like try to give me pointers here and there, but like I never super cared to learn, and he never super cared to teach me because that really wasn't what we were there for. And I had, let's see, I did have clubs of my own, I think, at some point. Finally, by the time it was over, but for a good chunk of it, it was like he would bring me like beater clubs or whatever that I'm just like smashing away with. I I would never like I never really learned how to hit the ball super well, and when I did, like I had like a horrible like I think
Form or whatever.
yeah, horrible form, like absolutely terrible form, like missed the ball every like, third shot I would try to swing. Horrible like slices and stuff every time I'd hit the ball. One
So
time one time I hit a house that was next door to the golf course, but like
that happens. That's their own fault. I don't feel
yeah.
bad for that.
It was super super bad. But yeah, so it was mostly just an excuse to go like drive around in a golf cart for a couple hours and just act like an idiot. And
Exactly.
I've done hours and hours of that, and I have paid so much money to be able to go do that, and I never learned a lick, not even once.
When you said you actually swung the club, could you at least get the club over past your shoulder, like the full like wind up and swing?
I've never felt like comfortable. Like I don't know if I do or not. Like I feel like my swing, like if we're talking like drives, right? Like it's the ball's on the tee, and I've got like the big huge club.
You're teed up. You're getting ready to smack that driver.
Yeah, the act of holding the club and then like winding it up, like turning it back behind me. Like I think I sort of do it semi correctly as far as like where it's supposed to go, but I kind of do it in slow motion, and it feels very awkward. Like I actually have to like actively think through like where my arms are at all times while I'm doing it. And yeah, it feels like one of the most awkward things that I've ever done. And then like, yeah, I watch someone who's good at it, and it's like it looks effortless, right? Like, oh, it just seems like you just do it. Like you just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, golf is a mental game, and at some point, like basically when I quit, I was having just a real hard time in general with life. So the one day I was just like I literally was just like, why the fuck am I doing this? And I putt. The only thing I was ever really good at was putting, because I played mini golf my entire life, so I could putt like a champ. I just couldn't do anything else. So like the one day it took me like 4 putts to make like an easy putt, and I did the classic golf rage where I actually threw the golf club across the green, and I was like, fuck this, I'm done, and just sat in the golf cart with my arms crossed the rest of the day. And everyone was like, come on, like just finish. And I was like, no, seriously, I'm fucking done. Like I'm not playing anymore. My brain isn't working right now. I was like, this is just dumb. I'm never doing this again. And I never did it again.
That was actually your hard quit. You never did it again after that?
That was my hard quit. Wow. I was like, this is dumb. But like with the driving thing, I literally can't put the mechanics in my head to get the club past my hips. So like I can't do it over my shoulder, like past my shoulders. I can't wind up and swing. Like just something in my brain or the way my body works, the mechanics are not there to swing a golf club. So I was doomed from the start. I just tried very hard for a long time to fake it.
Yeah, like despite the fact that it looks effortless when someone knows what they're doing, it's not a natural motion. Like it is not a thing that, like, I feel like you pick up a baseball bat and like swinging it feels normal. Like once someone like talks you through like, okay, yeah, rest it here on your shoulder and then swing it through like this, like it feels pretty good. Like you can get better at it, but I feel like the base motion is there. The golf club is not that. It is a very different thing. We actually have, so up near us now, we have Top Golf. I don't know if you have any of those around you.
We do. It's a big thing, or adjacent things. Like we have like, there's one that's called like X Golf, but it's the same thing. Like either the fancy simulators or like the half stadium.
Yeah.
Drive golf balls at cool glowing neon targets. And
yeah. So yeah, if you don't know, if you don't have a Top Golf around you, it's basically multi-levels, like you said, of a half stadium where you're just sort of standing on the edge of this kind of cliff and you are hitting golf balls out into this giant yard, and there are big, like you said, glowing holes, and you're essentially playing a game kind of as you go. So like the golf balls like pop out in front of you from this little machine, and then the system knows where your golf ball goes and like what hole it goes into and how hard you hit it. So like there are different games you can play, but like it scores you kind of as you go. So it's like it's sort of the atmosphere of bowling, but with golf is kind of what
exactly.
It is. And that's fun and a good way to like try your swing over and over again, because that's what I always hated about going golfing was like you get kind of one shot at the drive, and then
Yeah, there's no good
you fuck it
practice.
up, and then you don't get to do it again until the next hole. And by then I've like swung 40 more times because it took me that long to get to the to get to the green. Yeah, so like that at least you can try a little bit longer, but like boy does that get tiring just doing that over and over again too.
Yeah.
Like it's not. And also like the funny thing too, like I'm so bad at it. All the games at Topgolf are supposed to be like target this specific one next. And it was like, you think I can aim at which
Yeah,
one
like
I'm trying
exactly.
to get
I
to?
can't aim. I can't hit that far. I can't aim. If I try to aim, it's going 100 feet to the left.
Yeah. So my experience at Topgolf was like, I can hit it to the closest one if I'm lucky. And that's it. Like you can count my points as they go in there. Let's figure out whichever game gives me the most points for getting it in that one. And then we're good. So yeah, I think golf is my answer for like just like being bad at something and continuing to do it. But I don't know, that is like, joking aside, is probably a lot of things in life for me. Like video games are kind of that a little bit. Like I'm pretty horrifically bad at like most genres of games.
There were a
like,
couple times where we played games together, and
yeah.
I would get. I mean, this is like throwing back to like our 10 years of adjacent friendship or somewhere in there. Josh and I would play like team games together sometimes. And other than Dota, which you and I had a very good time with for a very long time.
I was going to bring up Dota. Yeah.
If the way it would work is if Josh and I played team games, especially if it was one that I liked and I was like, hey friend, play this with me. I was never the supportive friend of like, hey man, you're doing okay. Try this.
No, you would beat me down.
There'd usually be points where I'd like hit the wall with Josh and just be like, you're embarrassing me. Like fucking stop and figure this out.
Yeah. I remember those being very antagonistic.
I think CSGO was one of them where I was like, Josh, you're embarrassing me. Like learn how to play the fucking game.
I maybe have blocked that out in my head. Us playing CSGO together. I believe it. Exactly. Yeah, we played several things like that where like I was coming in knowing nothing, and you were the golf professional in this case. And yes, and I definitely I got a dressing down several times. But our Dota experience though, I still tell people about, because Dota is a weird game where people devote hundreds and hundreds of hours to getting like decent at. And you and I played that game for I think hundreds of hours, but like we only learned like 2 or 3 characters a piece.
Yeah, we had like our person, and then we just like be on teams, and people would get mad at us because we're like, I literally know how to play no one else. Like you're either learning to deal with me. Like I was always silencer. I distinctly remember always being silencer.
And I was Fen.
Yeah, and it's like either we're gonna win with these 2 characters plus another 3, or we're not gonna do anything. There's no middle ground here.
It was always really funny though, because like you and I figured out those 2 characters and like the timing between them, and like we could just murder anyone. Like the 2 of us rolling around together was deadly. If we picked like the exact items, we knew how it all worked, and like we had like a rhythm. And if we're talking about like an actual like tournament and like trying to make a 5-person team in addition to the 2 of us, obviously we're not going to do great at that. But like when we're talking about just pub games where no one really knows what they're doing, and then you have like 2 people on the team who are just murderers as long as they stay together and pick the same 2 characters, it actually kind of works out more often than not.
It does.
Yeah, like shockingly is very, very good. So like you and I have put in so much time into Dota, and I feel like we've learned nothing of that time.
No, like if I went back in it now, I would probably just be horrible still. Okay, so looking at our Dota Steam stat, or at least my Steam stats, I have 440 hours in Dota, which I'll presume most of them were with you.
Yeah.
And the last I played it was November 6th of 2014. So we're almost 10 years Dota free as well.
Yeah, I think I've booted up Dota and played 1 singular bot match since you and I stopped playing Dota on the reg, and that's about it. Yeah, so I think those 400 hours are probably our combined Dota experience together for the most part. I do think sometimes it'd be fun to go back and try Dota again. But I don't know if we could ever recapture that magic.
I think we're both too old now.
I think we definitely are. Yeah. Because also like Dota's the most frustrating game. If you've never played Dota, like the games are long, and like maybe they've like done some balance changes where the games aren't as long and now as they used to be. When you and I were playing, like 45 minutes to an hour was just like the standard time length for a Dota match. So imagine sitting down and watching an entire TV show, and then at the end, maybe just you lose horribly and
For no
just
reason,
have to
because
like
something
sit.
stupid happened.
Exactly. Like imagine wasting just a full hour of your lifetime.
And the highlight was, especially because like we both worked and did other things too. There would be nights where like Josh and I would start playing a game at 9 o'clock, and like we would either like maybe get lucky and get one from like 9 to 10.
Yeah.
Then we're like, okay, one more before we go to bed, 10 o'clock. This will be easy. Here we go. And there were times where we had like 2 hour games. So like my brain would be going like high speed rapid fire until midnight. And you and I would like, we would lose. I'd be like, fuck this, I'm going to bed. And then like your brain's just so hardwired from like going as fast as possible for 3 hours.
Yep.
Like you don't even sleep. I just like go to bed angry at the game, not sleep, toss and turn, see lights when I close my eyes from all the flashes, and insanity, pure insanity.
I'm still that wired that way. Like, yeah, I had that exact same experience of like you and I essentially playing Dota all evening. Yeah, going up until right until it's time for bed, and then like attempting to go to bed and then being too amped. But I still have that where like if when we record, like our recording nights, like we often, we'll go kind of late, and it's the time when I should be going to bed is about when we're stopping. But I'm usually like kind of fired up from what we talked about, or just kind of excited about something, and I will have to like go do something else for a while before I go to bed to calm down.
Oh yeah, like there's a couple times too where like I usually try to like at least watch TV for 20 minutes afterwards.
Yeah, because I always try
like,
to do something.
Yeah, because I'm like all excited, wound up, whatever. We're watching Lego videos, doing some dumb bullshit. But like if I try to just like turn the lights off and go lay down, like my brain just like, oh, we talked about this. This was pretty funny. What about this? And like that's no good.
Yeah, it's especially bad because my wife, she used to be a terrible person like me and would stay up way too late. But now she's like trying to be a better person, and she like goes to bed on time now. So I used to be able to like at least go like tell her like all the crazy things that are going on in my brain, but now she's asleep, so I can't even do that. So yeah, I just have to go watch an episode of Rick and Morty or something, something to palate cleanse.
Speaking of horrible TV shows, let's talk about episode 23 of Kamen Rider Geats.
I've been watching Rick and Morty to remember if it is horrible or not, and about 50-50 is the answer to that.
I'm going to say 100%.
I think some of it's still good, and then some of it is like extra cringe now because of all the like cringiness that the audience has turned it into. Yeah. But Kamen Rider Geats episode 23, I will say, is mostly not cringe at all. I think this is a good episode.
It was. Josh kind of ruined my seg there, but it's okay.
You did a good seg. Sorry, I had to talk real for a second. So Kamen Rider Geats episode 23, the big headline: Kamen Rider Gene. We got our big transformation in Kamen Rider Gene in the last episode, and this episode, Toby, we get to see Gene pop off.
He is the craziest, flashiest character. He has like what seems like magic abilities.
Yeah, he is just insanely powerful. We talked about the game master Kamen Riders and the producer Kamen Rider. Like they just seem so OP, where they just kind of have to like think and the enemy falls down. Gene is fully that. Like he just sort of like brushes off Daiichi, and Daiichi like goes crazy, like fuzzy, and falls away and acts like he's about to explode. Like
his blaster gun thing is strong enough that like he basically like shoots the claws off of Buffa.
Yep.
Like it's crazy. Like he's putting like what seems like no effort into this, and he's just like blasting people apart. He can stick to walls and do crazy anti-gravity moves, and I think we see him a couple times in this one, and he's just entirely too strong and too cool.
Yeah, he's nuts. I'm very into Gene at this point. Also, the finding out like when Gene first appeared, I think in our subs, they were translating his name as Gene, like Jean, and now it seems like the official version of his name is Gene Ziin. It's like it sounds the same as far because like the Z would have the J sound, but it's way cooler if his name starts with a Z.
He's
Um,
badass.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we get to see Gene pop off there, and while all that's happening, so Beroba, I'm gonna try to use her actual name, the Giamato supporter, she just sort of like pieces out. So Buffa and Daiichi are just getting just worked over, and she kind of heads off. She thinks she can go to the goddess and get her wish granted. So she, pops into the goddess and she says, "Grant my wish," and holds up her wish, and it doesn't work. And she's like, "What's going on?" And turns out the producer shows up and tells her essentially that he's enabled two-factor authentication.
You
It
need two
requires
buckles.
exactly not just the one buckle you've stolen from the moron. You also need my buckle in order for any of this to work.
Yeah, and like saying the more on the other one, it's like to put titles to it. You need the game masters and the producers of buckles to
Yep.
make the wishes.
Which is smart. I get that. Yeah. So he tells her to turn the buckle over. She obviously like doesn't. She just sticks her tongue out. So he transforms. He's maybe gonna fight her, and she just sort of like bubbles out. Like she just turns into bubbles and leaves. And she says that she will return to the goddess, and she'll have the producer's belt when she does. So she's making some threats there.
She has a plan. But the highlight of like that little conversation to me was when the producer guy is like, "No, like your votes don't count because you're not the producer or the game master." All I can think of is like the real but fake reality TV shows like Top Chef, the ones that say like, yes, the voting vaguely counts for things that like the interactive part of the TV show. But by the way, the producers can decide like, hey, we don't care what everyone votes for. We can just vote someone off out anyway if we want to.
It's so
And
accurate.
it's the same vibe
Yeah.
where it's like, yes, there are games to play, but in the grand scheme of things, if I, the owner of this TV show, decide that like, no, you don't win, you can't do anything, that's just the rule.
Yeah, for sure. It is 100% like real life to how we know reality shows work, because you have the on-screen talent who seemingly runs things, the game master, which is not at all how it actually functions. And the producer is really the powerful one behind the scenes. Yeah, totally. I love that little nod to like to how these shows actually work. We cut to the lounge next, and it's exactly as you and I think guessed last episode. Because the game master has lost his belt, the game is canceled for this season because the game master can't do any of the functions needed to continue to run the Desire Grand Prix.
We definitely called that last episode. I think
Yep.
once we knew that shit was going down and Neon was the disaster, like I think one of the closing things, I'm gonna take credit for calling this one.
I think it was you. Yeah, I think
I was like, they need a way to make this bullshit again where the three of them don't lose because then Neon has to lose. And lo and behold, once again, the Desire Grand Prix is canceled. So all three are still safe for a brand new week if they want to.
Exactly. It's a cute little way to get them all out of it. Which is fine. Like, I kind of wish we would have seen like Neon being the disaster, like going a little bit further, but like it definitely ran its course the last episode with kind of how they resolved it. So we get a little scene here where Ace gets to gloat kind of about like Neon's probably happy that she's not getting voted out. And yeah, that clearly then, priorities shift. Because of the sort of the driver being stolen and kind of the game being shaken up, we get to a scene where our heroes want some answers, we'll say. So Ace is asking like what Beroba is after. The game master attempts to explain and says it's the goddess, and then the assistant producer slaps him
out of nowhere. She just
full on
appears
rocks
and
this
flat.
dude.
Yeah.
So obviously telling him to keep his mouth shut. Keiwa asks about the goddess, and he wants answers about that. And the producer basically says he doesn't need to know. Ace then kind of starts hypothesizing. He says, well, it must be central to the DGP if you guys are upset over it. And that must mean it has the power to recreate the world.
And the best part of that is like Geats is a pro at like obviously analyzing the situations and just knowing the answers. But like he always finds like the absolute worst times to do it. Where obviously like they were upset about the driver being missing, the game's canceled, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, you guys are really kind of assholes about this. Like, you're just pulling
Yeah.
stunts. You can't do this because of this. And you just like see the frustration building on like the producer and the assistant's faces, where they're like, dude, yes, sure, you're right. Just shut the fuck up, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The producer here is definitely like, he's mad that his playthings aren't behaving, is the vibe he's giving off, kind of. Um, this scene kind of ends with Ace asking like, just what are you people? And then in good juxtaposition to that, we cut over to the Giamato garden. Beroba explains that the garden is in an area deleted by the game, and basically the gardener doesn't really like how his Giamato are being treated. He wants a world where they can live happily. And we get again a similar question from Buffo where he says, what are you people? So I love that, like, from opposite ends of this game we're getting the same questions from the Kamen Riders, just like, who are you and what is this? Like, please explain. And then back in the lounge, we continue that conversation from earlier. Like, Ace is kind of demanding an explanation. Again, the game master tries to talk, but the producer like steps in and stops him. And this is where kind of things get serious. So the producer tells him like, listen, it's like, it's because I think he says like no comment to basically like what's going on and what all is this. And the producer says, it's pointless if I tell you, because the moment you hear the truth, you'd forget everything. Like, essentially, like, we'd reset the world, things would be back to normal, your wishes wouldn't come true,
We
and
will
you
blow
wouldn't
you all
remember it
up,
anyway.
and
Yeah.
no one will ever remember you to make a difference.
So yeah, it's kind of this like weird, vague threat. Like, don't ask any questions and help me get this driver back, or none of your wishes come true and you lose all your memories. So yeah, producer, kind of playing hardball a little bit there.
He still has the upper hand on Geats, but it's only a matter of time, as always.
Yeah, because obviously Geats, the one thing that Geats needs in the world is to continue to play the DGP, right? He needs to still find his mother, still get answers. He doesn't have the full story yet. So, Ace at least has a vested interest in the DGP continuing for that reason. The Neon and Kawa both do, because they want they want their wishes to come true. They want to form their ideal worlds. So they're going to be helpful, I guess, because of that. But I think everybody, in this scene is realizing that, like, oh, all you guys are just kind of evil. Like, you're sort of all manipulating us from like every end, and like maybe you guys are slightly less evil, but like you're all kind of bad.
It's like the vibe of when like the villains' motivations are actually good, but they present them poorly, kind of,
Yeah.
where it's like yeah, like they're running a TV show. This is all planned out. Like, you guys just need to fall in line. There's reasons for all this, but if you want to get crazy, I guess you can. But if you do, then just everything's going downhill.
Yeah. And it's not even, like it's more like aloofness too from the producer and the assistant producer and stuff, like, because we find out in this episode later on, like Ace sort of surmises that they're from the far future, and Gene confirms it, like that's what it is. So it's it just sort of is like, we're from the future, this is a different like timeline, you guys are kind of meaningless because you're just these playthings from the past. Like, it is a little bit like, we're on your side more, but we also just really don't super care. Like, this is all just kind of for entertainment. And yeah, we're these like future beings that are kind of above all this. Sort of the producer's vibe for me now. But speaking of people from the future, Kawa goes and visits Kekara, our little frog friend. Kekara gives him a boost buckle, gets a little pep talk there, and kind of urges Kawa to go, help out with the driver hunt.
They all got to stick together. No matter what, the game's doomed, but they're still Kamen Riders.
Exactly. Neon similarly visits her supporters room, which I think this is the first time we're really seeing her in it. And it's all covered in flowers. And she doesn't actually meet her supporter in person. She finds a letter, and it kind of like auto writes. So like it like writes as she's reading it. and Kyun is the name of her supporter. So he kind of gives her a little pep talk, and it's all like very flowery language, and he loves her and he wants to support her and all this stuff. And he gives her the slot machine buckle. So Keiwa and Neon get a little bonus from their supporters.
So it was kind of hard to tell. Was the letter updating as she was reading it, or was the letter answering her questions? Because it felt like there was times where she would say something and the letter would respond to her almost.
Yeah, I think she's conversing with it, or conversing with him, and he's answering via the letter, or however you want to do it. Like it is, yeah, I think it's actively answering her questions.
And it was for her to have fame in both the VGP and Neon Television, which I find very intriguing. That they want they want her reality show to be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, because we obviously know that like the dude that gave her mirror back that we'd already met is this guy, the Kiyun guy. She doesn't know that, but he he was a little bit negative when he met her in person, and now he's very, very positive via letter form.
We'll see. Like, I think it was just like he wouldn't give her a stern warning, because like he kept saying like, if you act like a jerk, everyone's going to turn against you and you're just going to ruin it for yourself anyway. And he was trying to give her like tough love of like, the way you're doing this is wrong. You need to stop doing it this way. And he was right. Her sponsor was correct.
He was. He was presenting his like disappointment in her, like almost as like a neg, though. It was weird. Like that whole conversation with them, the vibe was very strange. But yeah, you're right. It was like it was like utter disappointment, basically, is kind of what he's expressing. Like, why are you behaving this way? And then in the lounge, Sumi questions the game master about how Daiichi got his identity core back.
She's definitely over his bullshit at this point.
Yeah, she's done with this guy. And then finally, the last of the kind of supporter roundup, Ace runs into Gene and finds out that Gene is a Kamen Rider. Gene is just pumped up to get to fight alongside his buddy Ace. And so Gene helps with the Giamato fight and gets to show off some of his skills to Ace. But then when Buffa shows up, Gene kind of steps aside. Like, he's like, I'm not going to interfere with this. And he just sort of steps over to the side, still transformed, and just watches the fight play out between Ace and Buffa.
I think it's hilarious that like everyone else gets a buckle to help them, and Geats gets like a Kamen Rider who's stronger than he is as his partner. Like, everyone else just gets like, hey, have your boost buckle. Yeah. Hey, have the slap buckle. And Gene's like, hey, I'll fight for you, and I'll kill most of the guys and give you basically like a digital surfboard to surf through the people on. And
exactly. I also like the difference between the different supporters, like Kekara and Keiwa. It's almost like you can do it, kid, like a father son type thing. Like, I'm giving you pep talks. And then Gene, it's like, oh my god, Ace, you're so cool. It's like very different vibes. Like,
I think by the time this fight starts, I think the count was at 3 times in this episode already. He said, I just want to be moved. We're going to hang out. And I just want to be moved. And like, after noticing how much he says it, he just constantly says it all the time anymore. So like he's fighting with Geats because he wants to be moved. He wants to feel alive and chill with his buddy and live his best life.
Yeah, he's really trying to make that catchphrase work. And it's not the smoothest of deliveries. Like, when he, like, I get it from like a conceptual standpoint as him, as an audience member, as a supporter, as someone who's watching the show. His driving force is to be moved by the media that he's taking in. Like, I get that. But yeah,
he wants to see a cool show. He wants to see a cool show.
He just becomes like a wrestling fan and is like, this is awesome. I like this next scene a lot too. It's like a little aside where like Keiwa and Neon just got their little pep talks from their sponsors, And then they get together, they fight some Yamato, and then they both decide like, hey, we're kind of good at this. Like we're really doing a good job at this whole rider thing. We should keep it up.
Yeah, like it's hilarious because like KY was so excited and ties like all the way back to one of our first conversations of does the Kamen Rider suit make you good at it being like common riding, or do you have to have the skills first? And like they're both very smooth and just dominate fights now. And like the fact that he like they were thinking about it and he was like, yeah, you know what? Like we've gotten really goddamn good at this.
Yeah.
And it's just cool that like they recognize their own growth. And then like when they had the scenes where they do the fights, it's easier to just make them fight with everybody else than make KY like look stupid here and there.
Mhm.
Like now you just kind of like have fun and like watch them all dominate together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, super super cute. It was a neat little moment between the two of them, and yeah, like cool that they've come a long way. And yeah, I was liking it, and also like it's a nice little scene if they do end up going down the two of them get together route. It's another neat little like scene just between the two of them too. Around the same time, Daiichi shows back up with some more Giamato to fight Keiwa and Neon, and then we kind of have a little pairing between Jean and Beroba. Beroba shows up, and they're both kind of watching the Buffa Ace fight kind of from the sidelines. And Jean says he wants the driver back from Beroba, says she should return it. Beroba just kind of laughs at him, and then I'll say makes the mistake of mentioning that it doesn't matter because this is all the distant past anyway. And then Ace just sort of like record scratch, hears this, stops fighting, and says, I figured it all out. You guys, the audience, the DGP staff, you're all from the far future. And yeah, that's when Gene confirms, and he kind of likens it to, it's like how you guys will set your TV shows and your entertainment in ancient Greece or the Sengoku period. We set our entertainment in your world. Which is great. I love that as an explanation for them. I'm just like, yeah, it's interesting going back in time to this primitive world, primitive land, and acting out our stories back here is it's fun. It's like going back into the Wild West or whatever. Like I love Westerns. I love modern day.
Well, like the best part of that whole fight scene when Beroba and Jean are like monologuing to each other about how they're supposed to be playing this out. So like Buffa eventually gets a hit on Geats because he's distracted by Beroba saying like, "Oh, this world's doomed anyway. Who cares? This is the past, and no one cares about this." So Geats stops long enough to let Buffa get like a kill shot on him. So he unhensions, and then like Geats, now having solved the mystery, does the Geats thing where he again monologues himself, and he's like, these are the 27 things that just happened here. I'm going to lay them out for you step by step of why I know this now. He has this classic smirk, but I just thought it was hilarious that like while he's doing all this, Buffa just stops attacking him. Like Buffa's ready to kill him and he just stops so that Geats can just say like, hey, by the way, this is where we're at right now. And Buffa just kind of like stands there and is still henshined and everything. Just kind of like visually nods. He's just like, okay, yeah, do your thing, bud.
Just
get it all out.
Well, I think that's silly, but like I think also at the same time, like I think Buffa also kind of wants to know about it. Like he did ask the question earlier about like who are you people? So he's not above curiosity, and maybe he knew all the stuff that like we aren't sure what they told Buffa earlier. Like they maybe just told him all this, maybe they told him all this and more. Maybe they lied to him. Who knows? But like, he definitely at least is curious about that front. And I think also like just actually doesn't want to kill Ace, no matter how much he actually thinks he does. So maybe that stayed his hand while Ace was not henshined.
Well, it's funny because like even like when they were all having their moments earlier of like, we're gonna lay out the world, like the vagueness of the world for you here and there. Like Buffa's attitude was still now and forever was like, yeah, I really don't care what you guys are telling me right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to win, and I'm going to get the power to kill the Kamen Riders. Like he is so gung ho on that they probably told him everything, and he was at that point he was probably just like, yeah, okay, sure, Like, I'm gonna win the game though, right? Like, that's all I care about. I'm gonna win the game though, right?
He's the most emo kid ever. Like, yeah, anything that happens, he's like, I don't care, whatever, as long as I get what I want. um, yeah, he. I mean, I guess he's like making strides towards it because he's helping the people who are also trying to kill the Kamen Riders, but he doesn't seem like a guy for someone who wants a lot of agency in what he's doing. He continues to give it up as well, like just siding with people who are controlling him more and more, without really realizing it. After that little scene, where we kind of find out a little bit more about who these people are, the producer is talking to the assistant producer and basically says when they get the Vision Driver back, this world will have its final judgment. It'll be ended. We're gonna kill this world. It's run its course.
So we're gonna stop there real quick.
Okay.
Do we think the world is actually going to be destroyed, or are the heroes going to save the reset? Even though in theory this doesn't matter since everything we're watching happened already. In theory.
Yeah, that's one thing I haven't been able to super like suss out how this works, because they describe themselves as like dimensional travelers, right? Like not just time, but dimensions. So it's like
Gene said this is the third 3.5 dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
Was his literal summary statement of how this works.
So I don't know if it's like this is just happens to be one dimension that we can destroy and then we can all move to a different dimension, like in Rick and Morty, for example.
Don't do
it. Or yeah, like if it's literally like we're gonna just destroy, like, because yeah, like if it's one reality, like one line basically straight through time, you can't destroy the world now, because don't you destroy the world in the future where these future people live too?
See,
So,
and that's why with time traveling shows in general, like I feel like most medias that do this don't keep the same rules the whole time. Where if you really start to like punch some holes in it, where it's like, no, but if we're saying this is the thing, like if you blow up this world, like are you part of this world? Are you part of like a different enough world where this doesn't matter? Like it's the past. Like you're actively saying it's the past now. So that should be like our timeline still. Like are we in the same string, or is there 20 strings? Is there, what the hell's going on here?
So my guess is that there are a bunch of different strings, and they're from the far future, but in a different string. So they are just jumping over to another dimension, and that's why the audience rooms and stuff look so crazy, because they're watching it like out of time and space and stuff. So my guess is destroy the world means basically like snip this reality string off, kill it, and then move on to a new one. So like effectively killing, Ace and Neon and Kawa, like anyone who is from that reality. But like the producer and all the supporters and stuff would just, dimension hop over to a different one, and it's all good. That's my idea of how it's working now.
But I mean, that seems like that would probably make the most sense overall.
But it's certainly not explained. And anytime you're dealing with like a time traveling show, you kind of have to like wait until they explain their rules, because like you said, they're all different in every show, and then they don't even follow their own rules most of the time in the shows. And yeah, you just sort of have to wait. Like, okay, so what particular flavor are you guys going to be using in this particular one? I guess we get a little bit more of a hint because Sumi is sad kind of after that sort of revelation about final judgment on this world. And she says she had hoped that she would be able to watch over this world a little longer. So Sumi's like a little world mom.
So like, I wonder if it's like, does she just like the riders that she's with now? And that's why she wanted to watch over it? Or is it
that was my guess.
Like, I'd have to assume so. Like she's attached to like, I mean, Geats obviously annoyed her when she was his sister, but like, she just attached like goofy ass KO, and she's like, no, he's okay. Or like, is this just a nice? Because I guess like, do they ever show if she lives someplace that's not the DGP stadium thing?
Yeah, we know nothing about her.
Because like, if she's not actively like down in the world, like going for like soba noodles and stuff, I don't know why you would care, other than like maybe nice visuals. but like it's weird. It's hard to judge.
It is, yeah. My take was that it was just like, yeah, she has has really come to care for the writers like more than other games maybe. But yeah, maybe it's something weird too. Like we know there have been previous navigators, so maybe the navigator is tied to the world. Like maybe like destroying the world is going to destroy Sumi, and
So
like
maybe it's a deeper sadness of my time is up now. If I
yeah,
can't
like
watch this world, I'm nowhere.
yeah, that could be like the super explanation for this, right? Like the navigator is sort of like the little like queen of the world, queen of the reality string, and maybe she doesn't continue on. Maybe that's how they get new navigators because you know they haven't talked about like obviously we've seen new game masters, but like the the idea of past navigators is something that they've definitely introduced, and the navigators don't seem to know each other, right? Because they Sumi had talked about like, oh, I heard her name, right?
Like,
So
oh,
it's not
like the history talks about her, but I don't know who it is
exactly.
necessarily.
Yeah. So I wonder, yeah, if maybe that's not the weird twist we're gonna get. Nonetheless, Toby, this episode ends with a twist. We knew that Beroba could henching into something that was large. We found that out in the last episode. And this episode ends basically with Beroba deciding that she's going to reset the world right
She's
now.
done now. She's over it.
She's
Jammer Garden
exactly.
is gone.
Yeah.
Time to erase it all.
She says basically, yeah, she says if something's no longer useful, you tear it down, you rebuild. She henshins into like the world's most giant Kamen Rider. Like she's this huge giant, probably like what, like I don't know, 6 times a normal Kamen Rider height, 6 times a human height or something like that. Like she's massive.
See, like
She flies up into the
I
air.
thought she looked like a Megazord. Like she looks like
Yeah, she might even be that big. Yeah, she's huge.
she kind of looks like Pink Buffa, but I also think she's a devil. Like I'm convinced that she is a devil or the devil or some sort of demon. So she has like I'm gonna call them demon horns, but it could just
Yep.
be like bull horns. But she's like a giant pink Megazord. Is all I can
Yeah.
say.
And you're right. It is very very Buffa like. So yeah, it has the horn aspect of Buffa, but I think you're onto it where it's like it's more demonic than Buffa. But Buffa's more bull like, and she's the more like creepy demonic version. She also has the vibe of Jean's whole suit, where it has kind of some of those like vertical slices through it out of white. So like at least their two suits share a commonality, I guess, because they come from the same time era, time zone, whatever. But yeah, she's massive. She floats up in the air. She kind of orbits for a little bit, like she sort of floats in weird circles upside down, and then yeah, massively explodes the entire world. There's this kind of whiteout explosion, and you see sort of everybody just get blown away, and the
It,
episode ends.
yeah, it was awesome. And like at first, I was confused because I was like, because
You were petrified.
the sound goes out,
Yeah.
and I was like, did the video break? And then like eventually the nuclear like mushroom cloud goes off, and I was like, oh, it was just artsy.
I always have that moment whenever movies try to do that thing where like, oh, the sound blew out and now you can't hear, or yeah, it's just artsy. It's just like in the theater, I always realize it's artsy instantly, but at home it's always just like, did my TV break? Did my computer break? Did my sound bar turn off? Like, what are we?
Yeah, exactly.
What are
It's
we doing
weird.
here? But yeah, that's the end of the episode, and it seems like that is pretty definitive end to whatever was happening here. So I don't know where we go next, but Beroba certainly put an end to it. Obviously, I think we could probably all agree that like our main writers survive. We're not gonna do 20 more episodes with them dead, I'm assuming.
Right. I think safe assumption is they don't lose yet. So until they actually lose, I feel like they're here until that end game state, whether they blow up dimensions or worlds or turn to giant megazords.
One thing that I will find interesting is if we continue to do DGP from this point on? Like, is this sort of like the big line crosses and now we're actually fighting good versus evil and like the DGP concept falls away? Or like, do they somehow wrangle this back into no, we're gonna have a formal season again. Like, we're gonna pick random Kamen Riders. There's gonna be like 40 of you. Like, do we try to go back to normalcy after this? And that's what I have no idea about.
I feel like you can't, because like, especially if this is all hinged on Beroba stealing a buckle. Like, again, I know the seasons are different lengths in general, but we are past the halfway point. There's really not a ton of season left, I feel like, overall.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can't have like, hey, we wiped the world. You guys know that you're looking at time travelers, you're doing this. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to go back to a basic ass game again where Sumi's going to say like, hey, new people, go play kick the can.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we can do that either. Unless it's like the world is the thing that drastically changes, and then the thing that hinges us is that the game is kind of the same. Like, if they destroy this world and we go to a completely new world that is like radically different, there's something crazy about it, but like the rhythm of the DGP is still there. I could see maybe that being a thing, but yeah, for the most part, this feels the thing to me. Like, Beroba's blowing up like what we've been doing up to this point.
Well, especially to like with, I don't know. I feel like you can't like you can't wipe the world that we've lived in
Yeah.
for 23 episodes now, just because like we know they all have family and stuff. Like, with the way that everyone
true.
cares about things and everything else. Like, sure, Neon's parents are a toss up. Her dad obviously cares. Her mom, overprotective but cares. But like, we all know how much Keiwa cares about his sister, how much he cares about like the orphanage thing he takes care of kids at.
Yep.
Like, I feel like you can't destroy this whole area and have Keiwa still be a thing, because like there's no coming back from that for him specifically, to me.
Yeah, that's totally true. That's a good point. Well, it'll be exciting to figure out what in the world happens next. That's where we currently are for sure. So that's going to do it for us for this episode. Yeah, super crazy one. Very excited to see what happens next. We hope you join us back for next time as well. You can, of course, check out all of our past episodes in podcast form. Just search for the Kamen Riders in your favorite podcast app, or check out the video versions on YouTube. Go to KamenRiderSucks.com to go straight to the YouTube playlist of all of the episodes. We, of course, love reviews of the show. If you want to rate us or review us or thumbs us up or subscribe to us in any of the various platforms, that always helps out and gets more eyes on us. Tell a friend about the show. That always is great, too. And
maybe tell 2 friends real quick. Maybe tell 2 friends.
2 friends. 2 friends is a big ask for me. I mean, like, you have to have 2 friends for that. I would tell Toby, and then that's pretty much it. Yeah, it'd just be you. So tell 2 friends if you have 2 friends, but like, don't brag about having 2 friends, because like, come on, like, my cup runneth over. But yeah, we hope you return for next time. You can also keep up with us in between recording if you would like to do so. Toby, where can the people find you?
On Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes. And on YouTube, it's either tobesplays.com or find me on YouTube, Tobes Plays, playing all sorts of games. I'm actually looking back through the old episodes and things I posted. There was a time that Josh and I played Jeopardy together, and I absolutely dominated him. And
well, it was NES Jeopardy. We played NES Jeopardy together.
We did. We hacked the system and played NES Jeopardy. I don't think it's on the channel right now. I don't think it made it that when I had to redo for like the 3rd time, but I am going to try to find it and re-upload it again, and then we can share it.
I'm excited to see that.
So everyone can see how I treat Josh when we play video games.
Yeah, treat me like a piece of trash. We might have to also find something new for us to play together at some point to see if you
I don't want to play Jeopardy again.
Yeah, I got scarred for that from that Jeopardy playing. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Tumblr. You can find me at PrettyDeeceJosh at both of those places. And yeah, feel free to reach out and say hey. and follow me in those places. And yeah, check out Toby's channel and the games he's playing. So we'll see you back next time for Kamen Rider Geats episode 24. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off